I have yet created another series, and this time I am touching on mental illnesses. Now, I have experiences with some of the mental illnesses that I am going to be drawing, and the others not so much or not at all. This series will highlight the main mental illnesses that are floating around today that a lot of people suffer from the most. And this is not to poke fun at any of this because, like I said, I am a mental illness sufferer, so I'm not poking any fun at it. All I am doing is basically putting a bit of a light-hearted feel on something that is quite serious in the population today. So I'll be moving through them alphabetically, and today's first mental illness is one that I have had a fair bit of experience with because I did suffer with this when I was younger, and it is agoraphobia. I pre-drew it and I'll line art it and I will watercolor it, and while I'm doing that I will tell you the story of what I went through with agoraphobia. So my experience with agoraphobia was back when I was 20 years old, and I had just been let go from my traineeship that I had been doing for a year. And they tried everything they could to make a position for me, but the head office just couldn't in the end. So I ended up leaving that job and I couldn't find another job. I just couldn't do it. And at that stage, my parents had their house on the market, so we ended up selling that house and moving to another town. And where we lived, it was a suburb that was right out of town. It was probably about 25 minutes out of town. And so driving to town was a big deal. Like it was pretty far. And because I had no friends, I had no job, and I didn't have a job for about 9 months at that point in time. I was living in an isolated place, and my parents would go to work and I wouldn't see them for a whole day. I was just stuck in a house, absolutely doing nothing. I was by myself. I had completely lost all, I completely lost all direction in life and had no meaning to my life. And I was already struggling with anxiety and depression anyway. And it turned into agoraphobia. It turned it to the point where I thought, I want to go to town. And I would put my hand on my car door handle, and I would have an absolute panic attack and just run back inside. And I just felt like something bad was going to happen, and felt like I just could not go outside. And this happened, I went through this for about 8 months of that 9-month period where I did not have a job. And it got to the point where I couldn't travel in a car unless my mum or my dad was with me, and if I was driving, or they had to drive, and I didn't like it. I just wanted to go back home. I just wanted to just run into my room, and it was horrible. I pushed through a lot of it to even go outside in the yard, but yeah, it was really, 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 really hard. And it got to the point where I ended up having to just go, that's it. I need to help myself. I cannot be like this. So I started putting in for a lot of jobs and pushing myself to go to job interviews. And there was quite a few interviews that I had panic attacks in, and it was quite embarrassing. But I had to do it, and I had to push through, and I had to go and try to make myself feel better. And I ended up getting one of those jobs. I ended up getting the interview for being an IT technician, but I ended up being put into the admin role, which I only lasted a couple of months anyway before they then upgraded me to a technician. But yeah, I then had a purpose in life, and I started to get better and better and better. And there were still some moments where I did suffer a fair bit. You know, sometimes it was hard to go out, but I was so much better. And yeah, that was my experience with agoraphobia. I haven't suffered from it since. I've only ever just suffered from the anxiety and depression, but I'm so thankful because it is absolutely the most horrible experience to go through. So with this illustration, I really wanted to capture like this, a little bit of a comical side as well as the dark side to agoraphobia. And I really wanted to just draw this thing, and it's kind of like this skull monster machine robot sort of mashup. There's no real rhyme or reason to this little character. I just wanted to draw something weird just to have a bit more of a comical side to it. And he is basically sitting in this box, and that's basically what it feels like. You feel like you just need to sit in a box and you feel comfortable there. But as soon as you need to go outside, you just freak out. And that's what he's doing. He's sitting in the corner and he's just completely freaking out because the door has opened to this world that is absolutely terrifying. And yeah, it really does feel like that. And when I incorporate the blood into the piece and onto the door and the floor, that represents the fact that you have this feeling that if you leave, you are going to die and horrible things are going to happen. So that's what I represented with the blood, that all these things have just popped into his brain, and the first thing that popped into his brain is that something's just going to get him, and he just wants to stay in this room where he's safe and he knows that he is safe. I really enjoyed doing this piece. I find that there's a fair bit of dimension to this piece, and it looks very sort of 3D, and I was very, very happy with this piece, and it's been the first piece that I've been quite happy with in a very, very long time. So I was extremely happy, and yeah, it's like I said, agoraphobia is not a nice thing to go through, and that's what I'm trying to portray with this series. Like, I want to get the message across, but I also want to sort of shed a bit of a lighthearted feel with it, to say that, you know, everything's okay, you will get through it. And I do apologise for the amount of times you do see the top of my head here. I'm sorry. But let me know if you've had any experiences with agoraphobia. I'd like to hear how you guys got through it. Well, that is it from me. Hope you enjoyed this illustration, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.